Imagine being 19 years old, alone on a gravel road after midnight with your car stuck in a ditch. You call your parents. You say you are unhurt and sure of your location. While they drive through the darkness looking for you, you begin walking toward distant lights. For 47 minutes, your father hears your footsteps. You mention fences. You hear running water. Then, at about 3:10 in the morning, you suddenly say two words.
Oh, sh**.
Your parents call your name into the phone. You never answer. Your car is found later that day, but nowhere near the place you told them to search. Your phone, clothes, and glasses are never recovered. Neither are you. One important correction. Despite the title often used online, this was not a 911 call. Brandon was speaking with his parents. They were hearing their son disappear in real time. Welcome back to Tea with Chills. Grab your cup. Tonight, we are reconstructing Brandon Swanson's final known hours from official records, contemporary reporting, and his mother's own account. You will see how one wrong location derailed the rescue, what search dogs actually found, and how Brandon's disappearance changed Minnesota law. May 13th, 2008. Brandon Swanson was a 19-year-old student from Marshall, Minnesota. He had just finished the term at Minnesota West Community and Technical College in Canby and spent the evening with friends. At around 1:30 a.m. on May 14th, Brandon left Canby to drive home. The normal journey to Marshall was about 30 miles. At 1:54, he called his parents, Brian and Annette. His Chevrolet Lumina was stuck in a ditch along a rural gravel road. Brandon said he was fine. The car was not badly damaged, but he could not drive it out. This sounded like a roadside pickup, not an emergency. There was only one problem. Brandon did not know where he was. He believed he was near Lynd, southwest of Marshall. Brian and Annette drove there while talking with him through a series of calls. They flashed their vehicle lights. Brandon flashed his own. Neither side saw anything. His mother later recalled that Brandon sounded extremely sure of his location. He thought his parents were confused. His car would be found on Lincoln Lyon Road near Taunton, roughly 20 to 25 miles from where he believed he was, on the wrong side of Marshall. In daylight, that is a map problem. At 2 in the morning, it becomes a survival problem. Brandon eventually left the car. He could see lights in the distance and believed they were coming from Lynd. He planned to walk toward them and asked his father to meet him at a bar in town. A local sheriff later suggested that a grain elevator light near Taunton might explain what Brandon saw. That was only a possibility. What is certain is that Brandon walked away from the one object searchers could later locate, his car. During the final 47-minute call, Brandon described walking along a gravel road and cutting through fields. He crossed fences. More than once, he heard running water. He sounded frustrated, but his father said he did not sound disoriented. Then came the moment that defines this case. At approximately 3:10 a.m., Brian heard what he later described as some kind of slipping sound. Brandon exclaimed, "Oh, shit," and then Brandon stopped speaking. Here is another detail that is often told incorrectly. The phone connection did not necessarily cut off at the instant Brandon spoke. In a later interview, Annette said she and Brian remained on the line, calling Brandon's name. Only after getting no response did they hang up and redial, hoping the screen would light up and help him find the phone. The calls went unanswered. If you appreciate mysteries told with the rumors removed and the uncertainty left intact, subscribe to Tea with Chills. It helps us check the story before telling it. At about 6:30 that morning, Annette contacted law enforcement. She later said the initial response was that Brandon, as an adult, had a right to be missing, that he might simply return on his own. But his parents knew the difference between a son staying out late and a son going silent during a call for help. Investigators used cellular records to identify the tower handling Brandon's calls near Minnesota. In 2008, that could narrow an area, not place a precise GPS dot. At about 2:30 that afternoon, authorities found Brandon's Lumina near Taunton. The FBI says the doors were open and the keys were gone. There was no blood and no sign that another vehicle had been involved. Brandon was not there. Searchers had lost crucial hours, and the land was vast. Farmland, drainage channels, riverbanks, abandoned farm sites, fences, and miles of roads. Crops and changing conditions limited access. Tracking dogs followed a scent trail for several miles toward the Yellow Medicine River, matching details Brandon gave about fences and water. One dog indicated near the river, but later reporting says the trail appeared to continue beyond it before ending near another road. That is why the dog evidence does not solve the case. It supports a route. It does not prove what happened at the river. A second possibility is that Brandon was injured or succumbed to exposure in the fields, near a creek, or in terrain searchers could not fully examine. Darkness, fatigue, and disorientation can turn a survivable mistake fatal. Later, human remains detection dogs alerted northwest of Porter, near Mud Creek. But such dogs detect the odor associated with human decomposition. They cannot identify a person. Searches found no remains or physical evidence tying the alerts to Brandon. By 2018, officials said the search covered 122 square miles. Hundreds of volunteers, dozens of dog teams, aircraft, boats, officers, firefighters, and specialists had taken part. Still, no phone, no keys, no clothing, no confirmed trace after the call. And then there is foul play. Authorities have never produced evidence that someone attacked Brandon or moved his car. In 2018, the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension agent working the case said no evidence pointed to foul play, but there was too little evidence to eliminate every possibility. That distinction is important. Not ruled out does not mean supported. It means the case contains too little physical evidence to close the door completely. Brandon's parents could not change what happened in those first hours, but they could change what happened to the next family. They pushed Minnesota lawmakers to reform missing adult reports. The governor signed Brandon's law in May 2009. It took effect that July. The law requires Minnesota police to accept missing person reports without delay. They cannot refuse because the person is an adult, has been gone only briefly, may have left voluntarily, or because there is no sign of foul play. Officers must investigate whether the person is missing and endangered. The case that exposed the cost of waiting became the reason other cases could begin faster. As of August 2026, Brandon Swanson remains listed as missing by the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension and the FBI. He would be 37 years old. And the most honest answer is still the hardest one. We do not know what happened after he went silent. Maybe the slipping sound was a fall near water. Maybe Brandon recovered, kept walking, and encountered another hazard. Maybe a fact investigators do not yet have would change the entire map. But no evidence proves any one of those endings. What remains is a stranded car, a route reconstructed from fragments, and a father listening as his son's voice was replaced by silence. Brandon's disappearance is haunting because help was already moving toward him. His parents were on the road. He was on the phone. Everyone believed rescue was close. They were simply looking in the wrong place.